Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. And today's topic, the Project 2025 Scary Effect. Scanning over the whole document, and I literally mean scanning. I'm not going to go through which is all 900 plus pages. I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't waste people's time and stuff like that, respect of people's time. There's a couple of things I actually want to show before I go in the document. And what I'm going to show will just be enough where a person can be like, oh my goodness, the disinformation that people have been getting, especially towards certain numbers within millions of American Blackism, modern day. Because the thing about the scary boogeyman or the scariness of the Project 25 is, oh my goodness, if the American Blacks, if they do not vote the proper way in this November 2024 election, then you know what? It's going to put the American Black folks right back into bondage. And this is why I would look at that nonsense and people say stuff like that, right? That's how silly it sounds, right? But it's something about when the way this supremacist system, which is brilliant, which is the most awesome mental manipulation force that's ever existed, they just get emotionary or get millions of American Blacks emotionary. That's all needs to happen collectively. And they know that many American Blacks will just follow, right? And that's it. And this is what supremacists do every single time when they know, God, leave boy, these Negroes easy to sit there and fool. This is how they think. Simplicity, right? Simplicity. So let me go ahead and get to actually, let me read something. I think this is very, very extremely important. There's a book called Propaganda that was written about 4 generations ago, which is about 100 years ago in the 1920s, by a guy named Edward Bernays. Well, what they got to do? What you're talking about Project 25? Get to the freaking point. What does that to do anything? Well, in the book called Propaganda that was written back in 1920s, he talked about how in the first chapter, in the first couple of sentences, or about a few sentences, organizing chaos, the conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in a democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideals suggested largely by men and women we have never heard of. How powerful that is. So let's go ahead and get into one of the first things I'm going to show. Because remember the thing about the Project 2025. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Project 25. We don't want to have a Trump get in office. Oh my goodness. Right now, this is not about what vote for Kamala or Trump. That's not even the issue. And which is the most nonsensical stuff as well on the part of, as if there's no other people that in November 2024 election, that there's no other people to be voting on. You see how that goes? But they got millions of American blacks, the ones this applies to. Oh my goodness. Presidential election, when the presidential election has nothing to do with a popular vote, but electoral voters, which is a minute amount compared to the whole demographics within America for these games, right? But let's go ahead and let me go ahead and share this part of the screen. So let's go ahead and get to this point on that. The first thing I want to show you is relating to about Project 2025, right? Since that is the scariness of the 2025, right? So I'm just gonna just read just a few sentences. Hopefully you can be able to see that about Project 2025, building now for conservative victory through policy, personnel, and training, right? The actions of liberal politicians in Washington have created a desperate need and unique opportunity for conservatives to start undoing the damage the left has wrought and build a better country for all Americans in 2025, which has nothing to do with American blacks. We're not talking about gullible ones and sellouts and things like that, naive ones. We ain't talking about those ones because they're easily, anyway, on that. But we're not talking, this is not about the very few, should I say, of the few amount of within American blackism that are not just going to keep falling for the foolishness and bad propaganda. He talks about how it is not enough for conservatives to win elections. Let me put this again. It is not enough for conservatives to win elections. If we are going to rescue the country from the grip of the radical left, we need both a governing agenda and the right people in place, ready to carry this agenda out on day one of the next conservative administration. This is the goal of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project. The project will build on 4 pillars that will collectively pave the way for an effective conservative administration: a policy agenda, personnel, training, and a 180-day playbook. The 2025 Presidential Transition Project is being organized by the Heritage Foundation. Oh my goodness. That's the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation. Oh my goodness. See, that's what we were talking about, Project 2025. And builds off heritage, long-standing mandate for leadership. That's the key words in there. Mandate for leadership, which has been influential for presidential administrations, plural, since the Reagan era. Most recently, keywords again, most recently, the Trump administration relied heavily on Heritage's mandate for policy guidance, embracing nearly 2/3 of Heritage's proposals within just 1 year in office. See, that's the little boogeyman part. Oh my goodness, Trump. Oh my goodness. Oh my. And I just sit there read you. It is a which the 2025 Presidential Transition Project is being organized by the Heritage Foundation and builds off Heritage's long-standing mandate for leadership, which has been highly influential for presidential administrations, plural, since the Reagan era. But you got people that have bought into the bad propaganda and acted as if Project 2025 just came to existence. Oh my goodness, for the games that this system of supremacy plays, especially among many within American blackism, with very few exceptions on that. So let me just go into the next part about heritage. All right. Let's see. Make sure I got the right thing up. Make sure I get everything up here. All right. About heritage. You see here, the Heritage Foundation. Heritage has won victories benefiting all Americans. Giggle, giggle, giggle. For 50 years, the Heritage Foundation has led the way for reforms in every policy area, from taxes and regulation to crime and national defense, with more than 100 policy experts. And how many of you think was American blacks in there? Heritage has the talent to tackle complex policy issues with simple and effective conservative solutions. The entire Heritage enterprise, the Heritage Foundation, Heritage Action for America, and the Daily Signal works on behalf of the American people to defend our liberties and our founding principles. This work has paid off time and time again. This work has paid off time and time. This work has paid off time and again with major policy victories since we first opened our doors in 1973, which is what? About 50 years ago. And bam, all of a sudden, you got people talking about, oh my goodness, Heritage Foundation and Project 2025. And you ask many people, hey, what did you first hear about Project 2025? Did you hear about that last year? No, you haven't heard about that? Oh, okay. All right. This came up, and all of a sudden now, oh my goodness, the scariness of Project 2025 by the Heritage Foundation. Oh my goodness. Some of the Heritage most notable achievements include the Reagan administrations. The Reagan administrations implementing nearly 2/3 of the 2000 policy recommendations from our first ever mandate for leadership. Let me say it again. The Reagan administrations implementing nearly 2/3 of the 2000 policy recommendation from our first ever mandate for leadership. Oh my goodness. Just what I just read would seal the logical analysis to be like Project 2025 did not just happen just then. It didn't happen because, oh my goodness, if Trump gets in office, oh my goodness, oh, that Trumpness, oh, they believe in Project 2025. And it just showed they had nothing to do with Trump. That he was talking about this is going on in one of the first type mandates for leadership, which is the modern day 2025. Project 2025 is the most current mandate for leadership. But one of the first mandates of leadership was under the Reagan's administration, which was decades ago. But they got many people talking about Project 2025. Oh my goodness. And they sitting there, and again, what I say earlier about the sound I was playing, this is what supremacists do when they know, especially millions, whether an American black is a modern day. They say it's not that hard to fool them. Yes. And you got some person that'll be like, okay, wait a minute for a second. Okay, wait a minute. but you know already, there are some other people. What, you don't think there are some people under predominant culture that are not getting food? You think there's no other people? Go somewhere with that. This ain't got anything to do with number of the personnel with the predominant culture and number of other people in border breaker, illegal immigrant personnel, and except, well, anyway, going all that. The point I'm getting at is that you don't sit there and hear quite a number of people from a different culture and culture and backgrounds of any comparison, like you've kind of heard certain numbers of ones within the American Black modern dayness going crazy about Project 2025. You don't hear nobody other culture, backgrounds, ethnicities, immigrating this, border breaking, illegal immigrant personnel, etc., sitting there going crazy like this, right? So now, after I've read what I've read, again, a person can just have listened to that and they can stop, right? Because I've already showed what I showed about the Project 2025 most recent or most current mandate is a mandate for leadership, recent. And one of the first ones, way before Project 2025, was way back in Project Reagan era. But they know, I don't go there. I don't go there. So you know what? Now let me go ahead and get to the bread and butter of also this topic relating to the entire document now of Project 2025. Now I'm not going to go into again the whole document. I'm going to scan over and maybe few parts here and there I will stop and read over a little bit more. Most of the other times I'm not going to do that on that because, again, 900 plus pages, and they know very few amount of people within the predominant culture, let alone numbers of people within Hispanicism, whatever that's supposed to mean, because that's very broad. They know numbers of within American Asianism, whatever that's supposed to mean, because that's very broad, but those are different games in itself that are being played. They know that numbers of within American Native Americans, whatever that's supposed to mean, right? Not going to look over this, not going to look over 900 plus pages. And they certainly know it's not going to be quite a number of within American Blackism modern day. Certainly not going to read all 100, read all 900 plus pages. So it has been up to main medianess and various other main medias, the ones that are doing the propaganda, the bad propaganda, and certain other people in certain other areas that have, the ones that this applies to, have utilized certain type of little white lie propaganda about Project 2025. And unfortunately, there are also, however, certain ones have bought and paid off certain numbers of within American Black, the ones that have been paid off and bought off, right? And some ones that have the skin of Black, right? Not of American Black, that have also been paid off as well. Stuff like that, that have tried to put the nonsensical bad propaganda in, right? So I just want to go the entire document also as a timepiece purpose. So then if Trump gets in office, which the way things continue to keep going, unless something changes, I would probably estimate Trump is probably going to get in office probably up to 90 to 95%, unless supremacist determines that they want Kamala in the office to go a whole different agenda on that situation, right? The wild part about it is that the American Blacks, where there is no comparison of Black pain that the experienced American Blacks have had to go through and go through now, no other culture and background, no such thing alternative lifestyle categories that was going on. no comparison to what we call Native Americans, uh, uh, to the American blacks, right? That's continuously going on and no reparations. You get the point, right? But American blacks are told this is the way they're supposed to look at things. This is the way they're supposed to think collectively, with very few exceptions, right? So let me go ahead and read. Go ahead and go ahead and get this started on this Project 2025. As you see already, I'm going to go ahead. Mandate. Remember, I said mandate. We talked about before. Mandate for leadership. The conservative promise for 2025. And I showed you earlier about it's a mandate for leadership. That mandate for leadership that was going on back in Reagan's era. Games. Okay, now that's it. I'm not going to sit there and be trying to go through every single page. I'm just going to scan. And I want to ask people to keep this in mind. Remember, this is supposed to be about the scariness, right? Of if Trump gets in office and how he's going to implement Project 2025. That's all she wrote for the American blacks then. And they're going to be put back to whatever bondage. So you got to get Kamala in office, right? Even though pro open borders, even though however personnel said they're not going to do nothing for black, even though the person's mother put on a birth certificate that they're a Caucasian, and then the father's Jamaican, you got numbers of Asian personnel, the one this applies to, arguing about is she Asian enough. All right, make sure. Get everything here. Okay. I'll make sure everything here. All right. Again, I'm just going to the collective amount is, oh my goodness, if American blacks, vote for Trump, it's going to put American blacks back into bondage. Just keep that in mind. Kind of boogeyman effect too, that the power personnel numbers of within American black to play this of Project 2025 because they know that 9,000% within American blackers are not going to read. So I just want to go over this myself. And so keep it in mind. Is this going to show if American blacks collectively don't, it's going to put American blacks, if American blacks vote for Trump collectively, if that's going to put American blacks back in mind. Many areas are not even talking about it and not going to talk about it, right? Because it's a propaganda, it's bad propaganda. You got people who want to show what they want to show for their own agenda. So, all right, section 1, taking the reins of government. Section 2, the common defense. Section 4, the economy. Section 5, independent regulatory agencies. Scan over it on that. Look at all these institutions and places like that. And how many do you think are made up of American Blackism? True ones. Oh my goodness. Independent for Women's Forum. You think they talking about American Black women? Don't think so. All right. A note, 2025 presidential transition project. A note on Project 2025. We want you, the 2025 presidential transition project. We want you, the 2025 presidential transition project is a conservative movement's unified effort to be ready for the next conservative administration to govern at 12 o'clock noon, January 20, 2025. We welcome to the mission. By opening this book, you are now part of it. Indeed, one set of eyes reading these passages will be those of the 47th President of the United States. And we hope every other reader will join in making the incoming administration a success. History teaches that a president's power to implement an agenda is at its apex during the administration's opening days, right? But now remember, they tell American blacks to forget about history, right? Just look forward. That's all it's about. And you got people knowing the power of history. In the winter of 1980, the fledgling Heritage Foundation handed to President-elect Ronald Reagan the inaugural mandate for leadership. In the winter of 1980, the fledgling Heritage Foundation handed to President-elect Ronald Reagan the inaugural mandate for leadership. But you got people jumping up and down, falling all over chairs and stuff like that, falling all over fences and everything like that. I mean, jumping in rivers of crocodiles, trying to run all over the place and stuff like that, and telling people Project 2025. Oh my goodness. We don't need Trump in office. Oh my goodness. And you got supremacists laughing at people in the naiveness. When I just read you again, in the winter of 1980, the fledgling Heritage Foundation handed to President-elect Ronald Reagan the inaugural mandate for leadership. Project 2025 is the current mandate for leadership. So almost 50 years ago, in the Reagan administration, was one of the first, what we call mandate for leadership, predating 2025 current mandate for leadership. Oh my goodness. So let's continue. Maybe talking about the 4 pillars before. Pillar 1. This volume puts in one place a consensus view of how major federal agencies must be governed, and where disagreement exists, brackets out these differences for the next president to choose a path. Pillar 2 is a personnel database that allows candidates to build their own professional profiles and our coalition members to review and voice their recommendations. These recommendations will then be collated and shared with the president-elect's team, greatly streamlining the appointment process. Pillar 3 is the Presidential Administration Academy, an online educational system taught by experts from our coalition for the newcomer that will explain how the government functions and how to function in the government. For the experience, we will host in-person seminars with advanced training and set the bar for what is expected of senior leadership. And pillar 4, the last one, the playbook. We are forming agency teams and drafting transition plans to move out upon the president's utterance of "so help me God." As Americans living in the approach of our nation's 250th birthday, we have been given much. Who has been given much on that? They're not talking about American blacks. And unfortunately, there are millions of American blacks that don't get it through quite no American black schools. When did black pain ever stop within a country of Americanism toward American blacks? When? Right? And with very few exceptions, in modern day, current within American blackism, who observe right through the game. Unfortunately, multi-millions within American blackism and this system supremacy, they look at millions of American blacks as naive. They're like, supremacists make sure that other cultures and backgrounds can help their own cultures and ethnicities, pro-illegal immigrant organizations, etc. People that are about immigratiness first. People that are about women's rights first, right? You say which women, right? As if American black women, and as if women within various parts of plant-based culture collectively for centuries were on the same equal level. This is a whole different game in itself. American numbers of American black women haven't got it to their skull either. There's never been equality among American black women and within women within a plant-based culture for centuries like that. Whole different topic in itself, right? On that situation. Oh, excuse me, let me go back. As Americans living at the approach of our nation's 250th birthday, we have been given much. As conservatives, we are as much required to steward this precious heritage for the next generation. On behalf of our coalition partners, we thank you and invite you to come join us at project2025.org. You see the name, Director Project 2025. All right. Authors, again, I'm going to start going through a lot quicker on that, right? Because again, this is 900 plus pages, but I'm just showing some of these personnel here, authors. You think they're American blacks on here? About 9,000%? No. All right, I'm just scanning over. Again, I'm gonna move a little quicker on here. Now, again, keep this in mind. Keep it in mind when I'm reading the Project 25 over this and the scariness of it, right? Is this talking about how if American blacks don't vote for the candidate of non-Trump, that's going to put American blacks back in bondage? Just keep that in mind, right? When Project 2025 ain't thinking about American blacks. What a games. Right? Contributors, I'm not going all of that. Again, I'm trying to respect people's time who actually are going to listen to this, be it today is August the 15th, 2024. By the way, again, August the 15th, 2024. So I'm just respecting people's time who maybe will take a look at this in the near, listen to this in the near future, right? Or it might be 5 years from now. It might be close to the next time for the next election, right? Or election after that, or some few, maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from now, somebody may come across this, right? And listen to this, right? And it might be another type of little mandate at that time, right? And some more gains at that time. So I'm just utilize this as a timepiece purpose, right? As I've already shown, Project 2025 is the most current mandate. And this is the one that have gotten people all paranoid. Quite a number of people are paranoid, especially within American Black isn't the one this applies to, right? With very few exceptions, right? On that. Even though, again, one of the first inaugural mandates for leadership was under Ronald Reagan. So let's continue. What's this right here? A Promise to America. 44 years ago, the United States and the conservative movement were in dire straits. Both have been betrayed by the Washington establishment and were uncertain of whom to trust. Both were internally splintered and strategically adrift. I'm not going to read that. So that part. Nope, not going to read that. Again, Mandate for Leadership was published in January 1981. The same month, Ronald Reagan was sworn into his presidency. By the end of that year, more than 60% of his recommendation had become policy. But again, in 2024, oh my goodness, Project 25, the boogeyman doctrine, is only relating to Trump, especially if he gets in office. It's going to just complete chaos toward American Blacks. And I just read Mandate for Leadership was published in January of 1981, the same month Ronald Reagan was sworn into his presidency. By the end of that year, more than 60% of his recommendations had become policy. And Reagan was on his way to ending stagflation, reviving American confidence and prosperity, and winning the Cold War. But you got people jump up and down to my Project 2025. And it started in Ronald Reagan's days, which was the first mandate for leadership at that time, just like the current mandate for leadership is a 2025 one. Why? My goodness. Let me back. Okay, let's go back here. Forward. No. Hold on, let me go back. Let me take a look at this again. No. Okay. Country Heritage Foundation. Nope. The Conservative Promise. Nope. I'm not gonna read that. Hold on. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. The Heritage Foundation is once again facilitating this work, but as our dozens of partners and hundreds of authors will attest, this book is the work of the entire conservative movement. As such, the authors express consensus recommendations already forged, especially along four broad fronts that will decide American future: restore the family as a centerpiece of American life and protect our children. I don't think quite enough people will, have a big problem with that. But again, right, there's a certain way that certain people in certain main media in this want to sit there and project this, right? Bad versions of main media is what I'm talking about, and some other people that try to play the disinformation, right? A little white lies. Dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. The naiveness, absurdness that they think, or people think that people within Americanism will buy into this, and there are ones who will buy into this, that think return to self-governance to American people is going to happen. Even though, again, the first mandate for leadership was under Ronald Reagan back in 1980s. Defend our nation's sovereignty. borders and bounties against global threats, secure our God-given individual rights to live freely, what our Constitution called blessed liberty. For who was it blessed of liberty for? In the late 1700s, when the Constitution came upon, it was ratified. Do you think that was talking about American blacks? When the Declaration of Independence came upon in 1776, what was going on in 1776? Was American blacks collectively free, walking around having fun, being able to stay where they want to stay at? Of course not. I mean, the embarrassingness that this system knows what they're bringing. They understand that within American blackism that don't read. They know that there are numbers of American blacks, the ones this applies to, they think they get a formal education and think formal education by itself equals common sense. And it doesn't. Okay, hold on for a second. Promise number 1, restore the family as a centerpiece of American life and protect our children. The next conservative president must get to work pursuing the true priority of politics, the well-being of the American family. Now, again, emotionary aside, does that sound bad? In many ways, the entire point of centralizing political power is to subvert the family. Its purpose is to replace people's natural loves and loyalties with unnatural ones. You see this in popular left-wing aphorism. Government is simply the name we give to the things we choose to do together. But in real life, most of the things people do together have nothing to do with government. On that. Let's see here. Some are obvious and long-standing goals like eliminating marriage penalties and federal welfare programs and the tax code and installing work requirements for food stamps. Interesting, isn't it? Right? Because who's the number one recipients of food stamps? People, personnel within the predominant culture. You see how that stuff goes, right? But again, this system, unfortunately, you even got some black skin personnel, not American black versus, but some black skin ones, the ones it applies to, that have ran from that person's homeland or certain parts of certain islands, the one this applies to, had a skin of black, again, the one this applies to, and have the nerve to look down upon American blacks, but couldn't sit there and do well in their own countries or in certain islands. You see how it goes. And again, it's a difference when somebody comes over and don't try to start nothing and don't try to insult American blacks. They come over, the few who do, and sit there and try to do their own little thing. That's not the collect. That's not a normalcy. It's quite a number of ones that have skin of black, the ones who know where they come from, have the nerve with their jealousy to look down upon American blacks, not knowing a damn thing about American black history. Not knowing nothing. Anyway, hold on. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, let me go back. The next president must make the institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke culture warriors. This starts with deleting the terms sexual orientation and gender identity. SOGI, diversity, equity, inclusion. DEI, right? Gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any form used to deprive Americans of the First Amendment rights out of every federal rule, agency regulation, contract, grant regulation, and piece of legislation that exists. See, it's unfunny how you hear the word DEI, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion, and automatically for many people, it goes straight to thinking they talking about American blacks. Just like affirmative action, when the first affirmative action programs and thought patterns and policies was for people, personnel within the predominant culture to help those personnel out first. But it transitioned in the mindset because of bad version of brilliant propaganda. They've made many of people think affirmative action had to do with black folks. This is why you hear some nonsensical versions of some numbers of within white Asianism who think certain ones within the predominant culture are their gods. So the ones in predominant culture, the ones who are ones that feel they are, the ones that are looked at as godlike by some ones also within certain Asianists, right? They have the freaking nerveness to act like because certain ones go to Ivy League schools and some other situations and have the nerve that being used by certain other people, right? Oh man, hey man, you're smarter than American blacks. American blacks are getting into those Ivy League colleges because of affirmative action. Giggle, giggle, right? When American blacks in this country before 9,000% of Asians even existed in this damn country. You see how that stuff goes. And again, it's not about numbers of good Asians, right? On that. But as you see the unfunniness of this, right? Right? You got certain numbers of Asian personnel who have gotten over because of what American blacks have went through and still to go through. And have the nerve to pay back American blacks with stabbing American blacks behind their back, right? And thinking many of them think they're smarter than American blacks and can't do shit in their own damn countries. And so how many of those countries are oppressive? How many personnel in certain Asian countries are very poor? Not saying the people and poor, but the area, the situation is poor, which doesn't mean it's not a good. It's not it goes on to the people because there are some good people within various type of Asianism, and that's a broad continent, right? But whom are the look of Asianists in society who they portray? You said it goes on that. But it's unfunny how you don't hear the SOGI acronym, do you? Right? Too much. You don't hear that. Sexual orientation and gender identity. You don't hear about the SOGI too much, do you? Let's keep going. I'm falling behind on this, so I need to hurry up. Promise number 2, dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. Of course, the surest way to put the federal government back to work for the American people is to reduce its size and scope back to something resembling the original Constitution intent. Did they not realize American blacks consider 3/5 of a person? Okay. The conservatives desire a smaller government, not for its own sake, like restoring popular sovereignty. I'm going to all that. Let's keep going. Because I'm falling behind on this, so I need to kind of speed up a little bit. Promise number 3, defending our nation's sovereignty, borders, and boundary against global threats. The United States belongs to we the people. Doesn't that sound very cliche? All government authority derives from the consent of the people, and our nation's success derives from the character of its people. Which people are you talking about? To most Americans, this is common sense. But in Washington, D.C. and other centers of leftist power, like the media and the academy, this statement of basic civics is branded hate speech. Progressive elites speak in lofty terms of openness, progress, expertise, cooperation, globalization. But too often, these terms are just rhetoricalness. Trojan horses conceal true identities, stripping we the people of our constitutional authority of our country's future. See, it's unfunny how they try to play that. Oh, they woke. See, we said that goes right. Oh, no, another critical race theory. What mean the piece of shit? Excuse my language. It's so disturbing, disgusting that these tactics continuously work upon means within American blackism, right? Oh my goodness, the woke culture. And you like for hundreds of freaking years, American blacks then and still now, how many were lynched then? How many still pseudo are lynched now? Right? How many times you seen bad seeds you see in the news? Oh, see, like it's like weekly, seems like something's going on with some bad seeds toward American blacks, right? How many examples do you see of hatred shown toward American blacks over and over and over again? But they keep trying to tell people woke culture, CRT, we don't need this. And unfortunately, they know multi-millions American blacks do not have a backbone. They say, who the hell these people think they are? to sit there and tell American blacks what is woke. When American blacks have been going through black pain for centuries. Who the hell these people think they are trying to tell American blacks about what wokeness is? Okay, I'm going somewhere all over the place. So let me start hurrying up a little bit. Promise number 4: secure our God-given individual right to enjoy the blessings of liberty. The Declaration of Independence famously asserted the belief of American founders that all men are created equal and endowed with God-given rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It's the pursuit of happiness, that is central to America's heroic experiment in self-governance. See, but they ain't gonna tell you what was going on then in 1776, right? Collectively, American blacks was enslaved. Do you see how this goes, right? Some people be doing a little stuff like this, a little pseudo, little sleight of hand type situations. They're not talking about American blacks, right? The American Republic, not democracy, the American Republic was founded on principles prioritizing and maximize individual rights to live their life, their best life, to enjoy what the framers called the blessed liberty. It's the radical equality, liberty for all. For who again? You see how this goes? The silliness of this, right? Let me hurry up. Where are we at? Okay. Okay, in notes, whatever it is. Okay, section 1. Taking the reins of government. America's bicentennial, which culminated on July the 4th, 1776, was a spirited and unifying celebration of our country, its founding, and its ideals. As we approach our nation's 250th anniversary, which will take place during the next presidency, America is now divided between two opposing forces: woke revolutionaries and those who believe in ideals of American revolution. And it's funny how you got people, the ones who ain't talking about American blacks, the American Revolutionary, right? Which is about what? Did not want British forces to tell, should we say, colonists, right, in the original 13 states what to do, right? Oh, it's the American Revolution. What's going on in 1776? Again, collectively, American blacks was enslaved. You see how that shit goes? And who was there in 1776 the most? There was only 3 main people at that time still. What we call whites, whatever that's supposed to mean. Blacks, we're talking about American blacks. And what we've been told, Native Americans. Those are the 3 largest populations in 1776. But now, here we go again, a couple hundred years later, many generations now, you got people running over here across from whatever different places and backgrounds and etc. benefiting off of black pain. What an insult on that. So let's continue section 1 right there. So these are different areas they're talking about the White House. From popular culture to academia, the American presidents have long been a prominent fixture of the national imagination. Naturally, so since it is the beating heart of our nation's power and prestige, it has played, for instance, a feature role in innumerable movies and television shows, and has been prodded, analyzed, and critiqued by countless books, essays, and studies. But like nearly everything else in life, there's no substitute for first-hand experience, which this manual has compiled from the experiences of presidential appointees and provides an acceptable form for future use. Chief of Staff, going to all that. Deputy Chief of Staff, no, I'm not going to all that. I'm going to all that. I'm going to all that. Senior advisor, I'm going to all that. No. On this, see, as you noticing still, this is not talking about one area, right? It's not talking about just one area. But the way Project 2025 has been presented is almost, again, the scariness. If American blacks don't vote for non-Trumpism, that American blacks will be back in bondage, right? And some other people that bring their own pieces of agendas here and there, right? But again, the collective overallness is, oh my goodness, Project 2025, it is going to mess up so much stuff in America. You say, which stuff? Like in this book, it's over 900 plus pages and goes so many areas. But supremacists make sure to have certain types of main medianess relay over what they want them to put in front of main medianess. And however, people that they pay off within certain parts of American blackism, right? And especially the ones that have some skin of black, but they're not, but they get paid off as well, the ones it supplies to, right? So that goes on that. Let's go back here. Okay. The office of the presidential personnel is responsible for. That's not what we want all that. Hold on. My recommendations. That's not what we're talking about. Nope, don't go to all that. Also, don't go to all that. But you see all these different areas and things like that within these different agencies and like this. Most of the people never even heard these kind of personnel and backgrounds and what they do and stuff like that. This committee and that committee. Most people ain't never even heard this kind of stuff on that. Okay, here. Office of the Vice President. In modern U.S. history, the Vice President has acted as a significant advisor to the President. Once elected, the VP helps to promote and in many instances put into place and execute the President's agenda. The President may additionally determine the inclusion of OVP, the Office of Vice President Staff, in White House meetings, including Policy Coordinating Committee, Deputies Committee, and Principals Committee. Discussion has been done in various recent administrations. The VP is also charged with breaking tie votes in the Senate, and in recent years has served abroad as a brand ambassador for the White House and more broadly the United States, announcing administration priorities and coordinating with heads of state and other top foreign government officials. The Vice President as president of the Vice President as president of the Senate could be a president emissary to the Senate. The office of the First Lady / First Gentleman. The First Lady or First Gentleman plays an interesting role in the formation, implementation, and execution of policies in concert with the President. Active and interested first spouses often champion a select number of signature issues, whether they be thorny social issues or deeper policy issues. One advantage of the first spouses taking on hot button social issues is that any political backlash will be less severe than it will be the presidency. You see how that goes, right? See that goes. No, it's the mandate. I'm going to keep going. Executive office of the President of the United States. Nope. See, this is going to so many different areas. And again, I'm falling behind. So I'm just kind of going through a little bit faster on this scanning. It's just going through the mandate. Going through the mandate here. I'm just reading. I'm scanning a little bit. Again, so keep it in mind that you got people that want to act like the project 2025 is only a certain area or areas. And it is, you see the massiveness of what I'm going on even right now, these areas. And so these sisters know that for 9,000% of people are not going to read or even scan through all 900 plus pages on that. But there are certain people within main media and other factions and other entities that will pick and choose certain ones for certain agendas and then regurgitate it. And then because they know that they get people emotionary and stuff like that, because they know most people are not going to read this document or scan over it on that to see what it's really about overall. which still modern day version, which has nothing to do with the one that was started back in Ronald Reagan's era in 1980s. Let's see here. We got here. It makes you even tired going over half of the stuff, right? But again, I'm just scanning over. I'm gonna stop at certain places and stuff like that. Gender policy council. The president should represent a total gender policy council. The policy council. The president should immediately revoke Executive Order 14020 and every policy, including sub-regulatory guidance documents produced on behalf of or related to the establishment or promotion of the Gender Policy Council and its subsidiary issues. Abolishing the Gender Policy Council would eliminate central promotion of abortion, health services, comprehensive sexuality education, and the new woke gender ideology, which has as a principal tenet gender affirming care and sex change surges on minors. In addition to eliminating the council, developing new structures and positions will have the dual effect of demonstrating that promoting life and strengthening the family is a priority, while also facilitating more seamless coordination and consistency across the U.S. government. There are some people that's like, we ain't got a problem with that, right? But again, these kind of things are not really talked about on this, right? It's not. So I'm scanning. Okay, I'm starting to pick up a little bit now here. All right. The end notes for that part. A lot of information. I'm just scanning. And again, with very few parts, I'm going to stop at where, okay, let me read this a little bit more. I'm just scanning over central personnel agencies managing the bureaucracy. From the very first mandate for leadership, the personnel is policy theme has been the fundamental principle guiding the government's personnel management. As the U.S. Constitution makes clear, the president's appointment, direction, and removal authorities are the central elements of his executive power. In implementing that power, the people and the president deserve the most talented and responsible workforce possible. On that, the federal government's immense bureaucracy spreads into hundreds of agencies and thousands of units and is centered and overseen at the top by key central personnel agencies and their governing laws and policies or regulations. The major separate personnel agency is the major separate personnel agencies in the national government today are the Office of Personnel Management, the Merit Systems Protection Board. How many people have even heard about that agency? The Federal Labor Relations Authority. How many people have heard about that? The Office of Special Counsel. Probably not too many people heard about that. Right? Oh my goodness. Pinnacle analysis recommendations. OPM, managing the federal bureaucracy at the very pinnacle of the modern progressive program to make government competent stands the idea of professionalized career civil service since the turn of the 20th century. Going all that. Civil advised, no, going all that. No, going all that. It should not be possible for large. No. Nope. Going all that. I thought he was talking about some recommendations because that's what I'm trying to stick to, recommendations areas in different topics, part of it. According to current law, federal to pay wages comes to the ratio billions. No. Reforming federal retirement benefits, career civil servants enjoy retirement benefits that are nearly unheard of in the private sector. Federal employees retire earlier, normally at age 55 after 30 years, enjoy richer pension annuities, and receive automatic cost of living adjustments based on the areas in which they retire. Defined benefit federal pensioners are fully indexed for inflation, a practice that is extremely rare in the private sector. A federal employee with a pre-retirement income of 25,000 under the older of the two federal retirement plans will receive at least 200,000 more over a 20-year period than will private sector workers with the same pre-retirement salary under historical inflation levels. Wow. Wow. Reduction in force. Reduction in force. Reducing the number of federal employees seems an obvious way to reduce the overall expense of the civil service, and many prior administrations have attempted to do just that. President Bill Clinton and Barack Obama began their terms, as did Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump, by mandating a freeze on the hire of new federal employees. But these efforts did not lead to permanent and sustainable reduction in the number of non-defense federal employees. First, it is a challenge even to know which workers. First, it is a challenge even to know which workers to cut. Wow. First, it is a challenge even to know which workers to cut. As mentioned, there are 2 million federal employees, but since budgets have exploded, so has the total number of personnel with nearly 10 times more federal contractors than federal employees. Contractors are less expensive because they are not entitled to high government pensions or benefits and are easier to fire and discipline. In addition, millions of state government employees work under federal grants. In effect, administering federal programs, these cannot be cut directly. Cutting federal employment can be helpful and can provide simple story to average citizens. But cutting functions, levels, funds, and grants is much more important than setting single employment rate. All this other stuff. I don't know what that is. Because again, most of the stuff I looked at this whole document several different times on and off, and I was gonna read it, the whole freaking book. Of course, I wasn't gonna do all that. So there are different places I'm looking at right now. I didn't even go over before and stuff like that. So again, this is why I'm saying I'm trying to go over or am going over the whole document and just stopping in certain places. And some of the stuff might be boring to a lot of people, and I got it too. But I just still want to sit there and go over the whole entire document as people are scanning and listening, etc. The key again is the way it has been presented. Is that Project 2025 is going to just mess over so many people, but especially American blacks, right? And again, if American blacks don't vote for the right candidate, which is not voting for Trump, right? Because if you vote for American blacks vote for Trump, oh my goodness, that's going to put again American blacks about in bondage, right? But you see already all these different other areas that I'm just going on still right now, right? It's so broad, this document, this big old giant Project 2020, this gigantic, broad Project 2025 document over 900 pages is so broad, right? But supremacists make sure to have their minions and certain parts of predominant culture within various parts of main media and other sub-main media personnel, and some sellout versions of some ones, American Blackism, and certain ones within attachers that hide under the black face banner or the skin of black banner, but not American blacks, the ones who do this, but they slide in and out, right? They're not black within American blackness, but at the same time, they'll tell you that they're of this village, of this particular country, this town, within anyway, going all that. They slide in and out playing that game. So numbers of them been bought and paid off and being buffers, right? And stuff like that. So let's see, student thought compatible on that one. Oh man, wow, this is definitely long documents. Okay, I'm just let me speed up a little bit here on section 2, the common defense. While the lives of Americans are affected in noteworthy ways, for better or worse, by each of the executive branch, the inherent importance of national defense and foreign affairs makes the Department of Defense and state first among equals. Originating in the George Washington administration, the War Department, as it was then known, was headed by Henry Knox, America's chief artillery officer in the Revolutionary War. Thomas Jefferson, the primary author of the Declaration of Independence, was the first Secretary of State. Despite such long and storied histories, neither department is currently living up to its standards, and the success of the next presidency will be determined in part by whether they can significantly improve in short order. Americans have understood that the surest way to avoid war is to be prepared for its peace. Yet the Department of Defense is a deeply troubled institution. It has emphasized leftist politics over military readiness. Recruiting was the worst in 2022, and it has been in 2 generations. And the Biden administration's profoundly unserious equity agenda and vaccine mandates have taken a serious toll. Additionally, Miller writes that the atrophy of our defense industrial base, the impact of sequestration, and effective disarmament by many U.S. allies have exacted a high toll of American military. Moreover, our military has adopted a risk-averse culture. I'm going to all that. The good news is that most enlisted personnel and most officers, especially below the rank of general or admiral, continue to be patriotic defense of liberty. Boy, you talking about some nonsensical part. What the hell did they damn think January 6th was? Right? Huh? How many of those personnel were certain sections of active duty? How many were? How many of those personnel that were helping to cause massive upheaval, right, was also within certain parts of active duty? And how many also were veterans? Again, I'm not talking about the good numbers of active duty ones, the good numbers of also veterans. But it's unfunny how they talk about the good news is that most enlisted personnel and most officers, especially below the rank of general or admiral, continue to be patriotic defenders of liberty, right? But they don't want to talk about racial racism, terrorism on that. Go back. No, I'm going all that. No, I'm going all that. What's this? The phone. Let's say the first part. I'm going all that. Oh, hold on. What's this? Hold on. No, I'm going all that. Department of Defense and requires the federal government provides for common defense. Department of Defense is the large. Department of Defense. The Constitution requires the federal government to provide for the common defense. It assigns to Congress the authority to raise and support armies and to provide and maintain a navy, and specifies that the president is commander-in-chief of American Armed Forces. Ever since our founding, Americans have understood that the surest way to avoid war is to prepare for its peace. But when deterrence fails, we must fight and win. The Department of Defense is the largest part of our federal government. It has almost 3 million people serving in uniform or a civilian capacity throughout the world and consumes approximately $850 billion annually, more than 50% of our government's discretionary spending. The DoD is also a deeply troubled institution. Historically, the military has been one of America's most trusted institutions, but years of sustained misuse, a 2-tiered culture of accountability that shields senior officers and officials while exposing junior officers and soldiers in the field, wasteful spending, wildly shifting security policies, exceeding poor discipline and program execution, and most recently, the Biden administration profoundly unserious equity agenda and vaccine mandates have taken a serious toll. Our disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, our possibly muddled China strategy, the growing environment of senior military officers in the political arena, and deep confusion about the purpose of our military are clear signals of a disturbing decay and markers of a dangerous decline in our American capabilities, and will additionally decline in our nation's capabilities and will. Additionally, more than 100,000 Americans die annually in large measure because of illicit narcotics flows. More than 4 times as many people in 1 year as we lost in our 20-year war against Al Qaeda. Priority of military service is the most difficult task we ask our citizens. And our nation is enormously blessed that so many young, patriotic Americans eagerly volunteer to carry such a burden. We owe them everything. We must do better. To do better, however, means recognizing and implementing 4 overall priorities. Priority number 1, we establish a culture of command accountability, non-polarization, and warfighting focus. Priority number 2, transform our armed forces for maximum effectiveness in the era of great power competition. Priority 3, provide necessary support to Department of Homeland Security, border protection operations. Border protection is a national security issue that requires sustained attention and effort by all elements of the executive branch. Priority 4, demand financial transparency and accountability. This chapter offers recommendations for improving our armed forces and the civilian organizations that support and oversee them. Some people be like, hey, what's the problem with that? Right? On that one. Needed reforms, prioritize a denial defense against China. U.S. defense planning should focus on China, and in particular, the effective and denial defense of Taiwan. The focus and priority for U.S. defense the focus and priority for U.S. defense activities will deny China the first island chain, whatever that is and stuff. We'll go through all that. Implement nuclear modernization and expansion. The United States manifestly needs to modernize, adapt, and expand its nuclear arsenal. Expand nuclear arsenal. They don't understand who has the most largest numbers of nuclear arsenal is within the U.S. But let's expand it. Russia maintains and is active brandishing a very large nuclear arsenal. But China is also undertaking a historic nuclear breakout. Here they go, right? Boogeyman Russia, boogeyman China. Oh my goodness, that people are anti-American. Man, don't get the hell out of here with that damn tactic, right? But American blacks are the number 1 most hated damn group in this country. Again, I'm not talking about some sellouts and some bougie ones, some naive ones, but American blacks are the number 1 most hated ass group, right? The number 1 person who has served in more conflicts and wars than anybody damn else besides certain person within Panama's culture, but still get treated as non-citizens collectively. Let me get the hell out of here with that damn game, right? Offensive funny authority. I'm going to all that. Not going to all that. Okay, optimize the acquisition. I'm going to go a little bit quicker now on that. I'm not going to go into all that. Let me start making some movements here on this. Not going to wait. Hold on. DoD foreign military sales. The United States must regain its role as the arsenal of democracy. In fiscal year 2021, the U.S. government foreign military sales nosedived to a low $34.8 billion from a record high of $55.7 billion in fiscal year 2018. Most people like so. Needed reforms. I'm telling you about how high cost of foreign weapons is. I'm going all that. End of the tier 20. I'm going all that, man. I'm going all that. DoD personnel. One of my forces was critical. But this is they receive the best incentive they make them for thrive. We must return to the honor and need reforms. Okay. DoD personnel, the men and women of America's armed forces are the most critical component of our national defense strategy. But in recent years, they have been overextended, undervalued, and insufficiently resourced. Their families help them to carry the burden of service, but the assistance they receive is disproportionately less than the sacrifice they make. Young civilians who would thrive in a military environment are disenfranchised when educators and influencers discourage them from learning about military service and preparing for the honor of wearing an American uniform. The United States military is an extraordinary institution established by exceptional people who have defended our nation and changed the course of history. But the Biden administration, their word and deed, has treated the armed forces as just another place to work. We must restore our military to a place of honor, respect, and recruit and maintain individuals who will meet the rigorous standards of excellence that are required for membership in the world's greatest fighting force. Needed reforms, rescue, recruiting, retention. Recruiting was the worst in 2022. That has been in 2 generations, expected to be worse in 2023. Some of the problems are self-inflicted and ongoing. The recruiting problem is not service specific. It affects the entire joint force. Improve military recruiters access to secondary schools and required completion of the armed service vocationary aptitude battery. I think some people say they're already doing that. I think people call it the ASVAB on that. Encourage members of Congress to provide time to military recruiters during each town hall search in the congressional districts. Increase the number of junior ROTC programs in secondary schools. I'm going to all that. Again, some people say, what's wrong with that part of it? Right? See, that's what I'm saying again. Like anything else, I mean, some people can say some good things, right? And then people get sidetracked with looking at that. But then a broad perspective is like, oh man, that's some dangerous stuff what people are talking about on that, or very deviousness. So, but this, some parts I'm reading right now, some people say, hey, what's the problem with that? But again, they know the system, or they know most people ain't gonna read this whole darn document, let alone even scan through it. So man, military service requires extreme sacrifices. Okay. Support legislation to increase wages and family allowances for active duty enlisted personnel. No uniformed personnel should ever have to rely on social benefits like as food stamps or public housing. Improve base housing. Consider the military family historically when considering change of station moves. Improve spouse employment opportunities and protection, including licensing reform, and expand child care. Audit all curriculum and health policies in DoD schools for military families. Remove all inappropriate material and reverse inappropriate policies. Support legislation giving educational savings account. Anyway, on that. Reduce the numbers of generals. Woo! Rank creep is pervasive. The number of 06 to 09 officers is an all-time high across the armed services, above World War II levels, and the actual battlefield experience of this officer corps is an all-time low. The next president should limit the continued advancement of many of the existing cadre, many of whom have been advanced by a prior administration for reasons other than their war firm proudness. Oh my goodness, what sound like does that sound like some affirmative action? Right? Does that sound like affirmative action, right? On some people would say that. But again, when it's dealing with American blacks, then it's like, oh my goodness, that's American affirmative action for American blacks. But when other people do it, they'll say that's affirmative action, right? But when type of affirmative action, but when American blacks get some kind of rank or something like that, it's like, oh, that definitely is affirmative action. Give me a second, Hero. Back, Hero. So let me see, Hero. Oh man, it's going so many places. This definitely is going a lot longer than I thought this time. I was going through it earlier before, a couple of different days and stuff like that. So let me go ahead and start making it even quicker now. U.S. Army. Talked about the Army part. The percent increase the Army's budget to maintain the world's preeminent land power. Increase funding to improve Army training, operation readiness. Increase the Army's force structure to 50,000 to handle 2 major regional contingencies simultaneously. Reform recruiting efforts. The Army missed its 2022 recruiting goal by 25%, or 15,000 soldiers. Prepare to deploy forces from degraded U.S.-based transportation infrastructure that is compromised by opposing forces. Going to all that. Reestablish. No, all that. U.S. Navy. As noted at the beginning of the chapter, the U.S. Constitution gives Congress the power to provide and maintain a Navy. Inherent is this phase is recognition that there is a vital national interest in the maritime environment, and that this national interest requires sustained planning investment. This is as true today as it was 250 years ago, and remain true into the future. The U.S. Navy exists for two primary reasons: to project, prompt, sustain, and effective combat power globally, both at sea and ashore, and to deter aggression by potential adversaries by maintaining a forward operating presence in conjunction with allies and partners. Needs reform. The invest in and expand force structure. The USN organizing principle remains platform center, vessels manned by sailors. The manned surface and subsurface forces acting on all that. Build a fleet of more than 355 ships. Develop and field unmanned systems to augment the manned forces. I'm going all that. Use the Space Development Agency, and I'm going all that. U.S. Air Force. The U.S. Air Force today lacks a force structure with the lethality, survivability, and capacity to fight a major conflict with great power like China, detect nuclear threats, and meet its other operational requirements under the national security strategy. For 30 years, the Air Force has received less annual funding. For 30 years, the Air Force has received less annual funding, if passed through funding, defined as money in the Air Force budget that does not go into the Air Force, anyway, than the Army and Navy have received. The underfunding has forced the Air Force to cut its forces and forego modernizing aging weapon systems that were never designed to operate in current threat environments. The result is an Air Force that is the oldest, smallest, and least ready in its history. Wow. Going to read it. Needed reforms: increase spending and budget accuracy in line with threat-based strategy. Return the U.S. military to a force that can achieve deterrence or win in a fight if necessary. Requires the return of a threat-based defense strategy. Adopt a two-force defense strategy with scenarios. We're not going all that. Reduce increase the F-35 procurement to 60 to 80 a year. I'm not going all that. Invest in future Air Force programs and efforts. All right. U.S. Marine Corps is the maritime land force of the Department of Defense and Department of the Navy. It serves a critical role as an expeditionary amphibious force that can project power from the sea to shore and beyond, while performing other special missions like securing America's diplomatic outposts abroad. Going all that. Needed reforms. I'm going all that. Transform USC force structure. Eliminate all. Transform USMC force structures. Eliminate all USMC law enforcement battalions. Transform at least one Marine infantry into a Marine littoral regiment. Reduce the size of the remaining infantry battalions. Maintain investment of N1 tanks, Abrams tanks. Increase the number of rockets. Going all that. Transform the USMC personnel paradigm. More than more than other services, the USMC relies heavily on junior non-commissioned officers, NCOs, to staff key positions across the force, but especially in combat arms. For example, E4s routinely hold, squad leader billets when the Army normally has E6s in those billets. Along the USMC's combat arms rank structure with the U.S. Army squad billets are E6s for platoon abilities. I'm going to point them. Create better incentives to retain talented junior NCOs, especially in infantry and other critical upon going on lab. Reduce unnecessary deployments to increase dwell time in order to enable more robust primary military going on lab. U.S. Space Force. The U.S. Space Force conducts global space operations to sustain and enhance air, land, and sea effectiveness. Lethality and superiority by providing secure broadband global communications, etc. The U.S. Space Force was established to assure continuous global and theater combat support from space to deter attacks against U.S. space assets and to prevail in space should deterrence fail. The USSF posture was conceived as a balance of offensive and defensive deterrent capabilities designed for maximum effectiveness. Needed reforms. The Biden administration has eliminated almost all offensive deterrence capabilities and instead will rely solely on defensive capabilities. I'm going to all that. See, reduce reclassification. U.S. Cyber Command. Going to all that. Special Operations Forces. Going to all that. No. Yeah, I'm definitely falling behind, so I'm going to hurry up. I got to hurry up quicker on this one. Wow. Development and notes. Oh, definitely. Homeland Security. Let's not go again to DHS. Department of Homeland Security. Primary recommendation. Our primary recommendation is that the president pursue legislation to dismantle the Homeland. Primary recommendation. Our primary recommendation is that the president pursue legislation to dismantle the Department of Homeland Security. After 20 years, it has not gelled into one DHS. Instead, its various components, different missions have outweighed its decades-long attempt to function as one department, rendering the whole disjointed rather than cohesive. Breaking up the department along its mission lines will facilitate missions focus and provide opportunities to reduce overhead and achieve more limited government. In lieu of status quo, DHS. In lieu of status quo DHS, we recommend that the U.S. Customs and Border Protection (CBP) be combined with Immigration and Customs (ICE), U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Refugee Resettlement, and Department of Justice, Executive Office of Administration Review, and Office of Administration Litigation into a standalone border and immigration agency in the cabinet level. More than 1,000 people, making the third largest department measured by manpower. Going all that right there. Going all that. See, the key word, you look at all of these things, it doesn't say, you see how it goes in so many different areas, right? But again, the way Project 2025 is relayed, oh my goodness, it's going to again take Black folks, American Blacks, back to bondage, right? And again, some other people that have their own little agenda and so like that want to portray it a certain ways, right? Too. On that one, then. What's this? Order ICE to stop closing. Order ICE to stop closing out pending administration cases and apply the Immigration and Nationality Act as written by Congress. The Biden administration closed tens of thousands. Let me read this again. Order ICE to stop closing out pending administration cases and apply the Immigration and Nationality Act as written by Congress. The Biden administration closed out tens of thousands of immigration cases that had already been prepared and were slated for expedited removal processing or hearings before the U.S. Immigration Court. This misguided action constituted an egregious example of lawlessness that allowed thousands of illegal immigrants, legal aliens, and other immigration violators to go free in the United States. Wow. This is definitely another one in itself that's truly not talked about, regardless. Direct ICE to stop ignoring criminal aliens identified through the 287G program. Ultimately, Congress should prevent ICE from ignoring criminal aliens identified by local law enforcement agencies that are partners in the 287G program. However, before congressional action, ICE should be directed to take custody of all aliens with records for felonies, crimes of violence, DUIs, previous removals, and other crime that is considered a national security or public safety threat as defined under current laws. Eliminate T and U visas. Victimization should not be a basis for an immigration benefit. If an alien who was a trafficking or crime victim is actively and significantly cooperating with law enforcement as a witness, the S visa is already available and should be used. Pending elimination of the T and U visas, the Secretary should significantly restrict eligibility for each visa to prevent fraud. Issue clear guidance regarding detention and bond for aliens. Thousands of illegal aliens are allowed to bond out of immigration detention only to disappear into the interior of the United States, where many commit crimes and many others disappear, never to be heard from again. This occurs primarily because of poor worded bond regulations, contradictory bond policy memorandum, and poor practices for managing released aliens and the Alternatives to Detention ATD program, which requires significant reform. Prioritize national security in the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, SEVP. ICE should end its current cozy deference to educational institutions and remove security risks from the program. This requires working with the Department of State to eliminate or significantly reduce the number of visas issued to foreign students from enemy nations. Most of the foregoing can be accomplished rapidly and effectively through execution or executive action that is both lawful and appropriate. I don't think a lot of people would be mad at that part. But these are the kind of things that's not talked about in Project 2025, unless it is a type of pseudo play game, mental switchery tactic scenario, right? So there are some good parts within Project 2025, some people will say, and there are some questionable parts in that situation, right? That's the thing about it. The system knows that for many people, 9,000% of however many people they know are not going to know what's even half of this document on that. The role of ICE. Okay, this is going a lot of stuff here. Okay, so let me continue. Let me hurry up now. Let me try to hurry up and go a little faster now, even more. Okay, asylum. Oh, it's a lot of good stuff in now. Oof, it's a lot of stuff. That's a whole different section in itself. Okay. Okay, keep going. Consultation. Okay, almost getting halfway done. Let's see here. Department of State. Okay, whatever on that part. I'm going through all that. I mean, it's a lot of good history on some different areas on that one. Okay, I'm just looking over some stuff. 243, no, 7, no, all that. Pivoting the board, no, talk about that because I'm trying to make movement. Because I know a lot of people are not going to be listening to this far, and some people listen to it this far. A salute to you on that. I'm just going over a lot, this in general, scanning and things like that. Because again, the way it's been presented is a certain one-sided way, certain type of biased way. It's this way, or is there some questionable things in there? Hey, however you go on that, right? There's some people say there's definitely some questionable things on in that Project 2025 mandate for leadership document. I'm just relaying there's also however different ones in that project that some people are like, hey, well, what's wrong with that part? Right. But the way some other people will try to make it seem like, again, is, oh my goodness, again, if you do not vote for non-Trump, again, it's going to put American blacks back in bondage. And for what I've read so far, did you hear anything overall? They say if non-Trump is not voted for, oh my goodness, Trump is going to put American blacks, he's going to put them in bondage, right? From what I read, so many different areas are affecting all kind of people in all different ways on that, right? So let's keep going. Oh, I saw something here. I thought I saw something. Wait a minute. Department of State. Administration correct the felon policies during the should willing counter should develop policies. Africans try to go counter the furtherance of terrorism. African country-based terrorism groups like Boko Haram may currently lack the capability to attack the United States, as if they were doing that. They're gonna come way across that Atlantic Ocean and come to the States, right? Boy, some people do try to put that old nonsensical the boogeyman thought pattern right in there, right? But at least some of them would eventually try, if allowed, to consolidate their operations and plan such attacks. See, that's that trying to play off people's mentality, right? So Boko Haram gonna go across there and go across the whole Atlantic Ocean, right? Some little teeny bit little place, very deadly, but the people don't ask the question, how do they get their weapons, right? Okay. On that. There's particularly non-receptive. Focus on core diplomatic activities and stop promoting policies birthing American culture wars. African nations are particularly and reasonably non-receptive to the U.S. social policies such as abortion and pro-LGBT initiatives being imposed on them. The United States should focus on core security, economic, and human rights engagement with African partners and reject the promotion of divisive policies that hurt the deepening of shared goals between U.S. and its African partners. Going on all that. Okay, hurry up here. Shaping the future. Okay, diplomacy. No. Still in the State Department part of it. Okay, that's in the State Department part of it. What's next? Zero. The scanning. Intelligence community. Oh, then overview. Officer, no, going to all that. And what's the recommendations and the recommendations for that? Let's pass that. Address it. What? Going to all that. Clarify, prioritize security. All right, kind of problem. Ensure the DNA. Going to all that. Security. That one. Convert action. No, I'm going to talk about that. No, I'm going to talk about that. Man, this document actually is more bigger than I thought. This document, because before I was scanning very fast, extremely fast. So I'm not even going even halfway fast as I was looking at this document before, because I'm just having to look at certain things I didn't see before and observe things I didn't see before, observe before. And so I probably stopped at a lot more places than I shouldn't have stopped at. It's just an interesting document. So I'm trying to catch up big time. I'm getting close to catching up. Oh, what's this? Okay, now the extension, no, not important. Wait a minute, let's see, 6G? 5G data 5G and 6G data transmission and network ability, which is vital to IC operating. Oh wow. What's IC? What's IC? Kind of going. They say talking about 6G. That you ain't hearing too much about no 6G, perhaps. Wow, that's a whole different part of it. Okay, what's this? What's the next one here? Okay, media agencies. The U.S. Agency for Global Media. How many people have not heard about them? The mission of the United States Agency for Global Media is to inform, engage, and connect people around the world in support of freedom and democracy. How many people have heard about that agency? Not too many at all on that one. The Office of Cuba Broadcasting. Radio Free Asia. Okay, what's the attempts to reform? I'm gonna read that. I'm just looking over this. The conclusion on that. I'm going. Oh, and what's the conclusion? The conclusion of the story is was fully informed top. I'm going to all that. Corporation going to all that. Defunding through budget, cutting off the. Well, it's funny. So talking about some hypocrisy on this. Defunding through budgetary process. All that. Okay, going through. I'm just going faster and faster more now. Agents for International Development. And I'm not going through that at all. What that is, what that's about. I'm just going over how broad this document is. Oh, what's this? Broad this document is on this. So it's understandable how a lot of people we're not going to go through this document on that and just allow people within certain parts of the main media to dictate what they want to regurgitate back to many type people, to just accept that is just the truth without understanding that how many parts of that they were saying the little white lies are twisted in a certain way to not say what was in a document. And other places say it was in a document, but then twist it to make it sound like it was something else on that. Region, what's this? Asia. What's this region? What is this under? Agency for International Development. I'm going to all that. With ACE. Okay. I'm actually going to probably skip a big time. I'm actually going to probably section 3, general welfare. Because can I find them? When I found under the general welfare, when our founders wrote in the Constitution that the federal government would promote the general welfare, they could not have fathomed a massive bureaucracy that will someday spend $3 trillion in a single year, roughly the sum combined spent by the departments covered in this section. While in 2022, approximately half of that colossal sum was spent by the Department of Health and Human Services alone, the belly of the massive behemoth that is the modern administration state. HSS is home to Medicare and Medicaid, the principal drivers of our 31 trillion national debt. Wow. Wow. Oh, okay. I think I know what I did last time. Well, many different times. I was scanning beyond scanning. I was super scanning. So I think I'm gonna move a little faster. Actually, I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna scan this a little bit quicker, move a little bit faster on this. Yeah, I definitely had to move it faster on this one then. Okay. So I skipped definitely quite a number of pages on that because it's definitely taking a lot longer than I thought it was going to take on this. Workers' forces, all this stuff, office of reporting, 600. Okay, that's pages. Actually, I'm getting closer and closer to finishing this here on this. Oh, what's this? Visa fraud. Visa fraud. American businesses that commit visa fraud and hire illegal immigrants should not be the beneficiaries of federal spending, but a 2020 report by the Department of Labor's Office of Inspector General examined the department's process for excluding employers who commit visa fraud and abuse from federal contractors and found much to be desired. Report by the Department of Labor. It's interesting on that one. That's not talked about enough either. Investigative foreign labor. Okay, getting closer and closer, almost finishing actually. Department of Transportation. America needs transportation that is more abundant and affordable, as well as dignified, accessible, and family friendly. Transportation plays a vital role in the prosperity and flourishing of the United States. Americans use trucks, tankers, and trains to keep our supply chains running, and cars, transit, and planes to go where we want. 240 years ago, Adam Smith recognized that connections were a bedrock society. Yeah, I'm going to all that. U.S. Department of Transportation, DOT, with a requested fiscal year 2022 budget for $142 billion, was originally intended simply to provide policy framework for transportation safety, rulemaking, and regulation. Now, meanwhile, I'm going to all that build. I'm going to all that. Technology, going to all that ones. What's this talking about? Going to all that. Corporate, and all that. Actually, I'm getting closer and closer to finishing this up. The Federal Highway Administration has jurisdiction over the interstate highway system, which is vital for transportation of goods and people throughout the country. However, over the course of decades, presidential administrations and Congress have caused the FHWA to go beyond its original mission. The variety of infrastructure projects now eligible for funding through FHWA include ferry boat terminals, hiking trails, bicycle lanes, and local sidewalks. In many cases, such projects should be sole responsibility of local or state government, not depend on FHWA funding. Okay. Aviation. Americans value the ability to travel safely and inexpensive by air. In the United States, the private sector has developed the world's safest, most effective passenger and cargo transport networks. Current policies threaten to undo that legacy and to strangle the development of new technologies such as drones and advanced air mobility, including small aircraft that serve as air taxis or to conduct quiet vertical flights. To achieve a more level playing field, increase options for traveling public, the next administration should publicly indicate that a new administration would support joint venture efforts by smaller carriers, for example, JetBlue and Spirit, to achieve scale necessary to reduce costs and compete more effectively with larger carriers. Review foreign ownership and control limitations, and if necessary, work with Congress to change existing statutes. On that one, establish a new entry initiative that commits the federal government to approving or rejecting the application of new air carriers within 12 months. Okay. FAA. The FAA. With a budget of 18.6 billion requested for fiscal year 2023 and an international regulatory footprint, the FAA is DOT's most visible mode. It needs reform. Air traffic control operations account for 2/3 of FAA's budget. The FAA's primary mission is ATC, air traffic control. Its two smaller functions are distributing federal airport grants and regulating all aspects of aviation safety. The FAA workforce needs to modernize. The agency needs to safely safety and certification experts, not professional airframe and power plant mechanics. It needs to hire people trained to oversee mechanics, engineers, and pilots. It is time to consider promoting FAA's top executive team from within and requiring strict professional requirements for its appointees. Separate the FAA from DOT or a member. Separate the ATO from the FAA. Completely restructure the FAA's funding system so that the nation's aviation system is not held prisoner to annual appropriations or used as a political football to promote non-aviation problems. Again, some people will look at these kind of things and say, well, what's the problem? Now, again, this I was reading some other things before. He's talking about woke culture and all this other stuff. And see, there's some game plan in between there, right? The federal transit policy, whatever that is, part. Federal railroad policy. Most people have never heard about that. It's making decisions based on political consideration. Getting close to finishing up here. Conclusion. Nothing to some situation. That's dealing with that. Something else. I'm going all that. Okay, it was 20. Department of Veterans Affairs. The Department of Veterans Affairs is a primary provider of health care, benefits, and memorial affairs for American veterans and their families. The VA has the noble responsibility to render exceptional and time support and services with respect, compassion, and competence. The veteran is at the forefront of every VA process interaction. The VA must continuously strive to be recognized as a best-in-class veteran-centric system with an organizational ethos inspired by and accountable to the needs and problems of veterans, not subservient to the parochial preferences of bureaucracy. At the end of the Obama administration, the VA was held in low self-esteem, both by the veterans it served and by the employees it served these former warriors, eroding moral caused by the downstream effects on healthcare access crisis in 2014 led to the resignation of Secretary Eric Shinseki and extensive oversight investigations by Congress in 2015 and 2016. By 2020, however, the VA had become one of the most respected U.S. agencies. Centric buying point. Some of the process agreement, however, they have the same. For the first time, additionally, the current VA leadership is focusing very publicly on social equity and inclusion within departmental policy discussions toward ends that will affect only a small minority of the veterans who is the VA. For the first time, the VA is allowing access to abortion services, a medical procedure unrelated to military service that the VA lacks the legal authority and the clinical proficiency to perform. In addition to continuing the grotesque culture of violence against the child in the womb, these social political initiatives and ideological indoctrination distract from the department's core missions. Following the Civil War, state veteran homes were established to promote medical and hospital treatment for all injuries and veterans, or all injuries and diseases. When the U.S. entered the World War in 1917, Congress established a new system of veterans benefits, including programs for disability compensation, issuance of service personnel and veterans, and vocational rehabilitation for the disabled. That was overseen by three different federal programs: the Veterans Bureau, the Department of the Interior's Bureau of Pensions, and the National Home for Disabled Volunteer Soldiers. In 1921, Congress combined these programs into the Veterans Bureau. Following World War II, a national VA hospital system, much of which remains operational today, was established to care for millions of returning veterans. With a growth in time, so what's this? As the nature of healthcare has evolved, with a growth in same-day surgical procedures and outpatient care, so has the VA. In 2018, Congress added access to private sector urgent care outlets as one of the VA's healthcare benefits. Today, the VA operates 172 inpatient VA medical centers, which are on average of 60 years old, and 1,113 community-based outpatient clinics, which are a newer facility designed to meet the needs of veterans close to home. The VA also manages community care network through contracts with Optum and TriWest, third-party healthcare administrators responsible for building and maintaining a robust population of community providers to meet the needs of veterans referred for care outside the VA system. Currently, approximately 6.4 million veterans out of 18 million nationally and out of the 9.1 million who are enrolled use the VA for health care. The remainder use employee-sponsored plans, TRICARE, Medicare, and Medicaid. Okay, some VA workplace Veterans Administration. VA administration needed reforms. Rescind all departmental clinical policy directives that are contrary to principles of conservative governments, starting with abortion services and gender reassignment surgery. Neither aligns with service-connected conditions that would warrant VAs providing this type of clinical care, and both follow the left's pernicious trend of abusing the role of government to further its own agenda. Focus on the effects of shifting veteran demographics. At least during the next decade, the VA will experience a significant generational shift in its overall patient population. Of the approximate 18 million veterans alive today, roughly 9 million are enrolled for VA healthcare, and 6.4 million of these enrollees use VA healthcare consistently. These 6.4 million veterans are split almost evenly between those who are over age 65 and those who are under age 65. But the share of the VA's healthcare dollars is spent predominantly in the over 65 cohort. Demographics and that one. On that one, Trump administration made community care. The Trump administration made community care part of its veteran-centric approach to ensure that veterans would be able to participate more fully in their health care decisions and have options if or when the VHA was unable to meet their needs. The Biden administration has watered down that effort, has sought various procedural ways to slow down the rate of referrals to private doctors, and at some facilities reporting and manipulating the community care access standards required by the VA Mission Act of 2018. If the makeup of Congress is favorable in 2025, the next administration should rapidly and explicitly codify VA Mission Act access standards in legislation to prevent the VA from avoiding or watering down the problems in the future. First and foremost, a Veterans Bill of Rights is needed so that veterans and VA staff know exactly what benefits veterans and entities to receive, with a clear process for the adjudication of disputes, and so that staff ensure that all veterans are informed of their eligibility for community care. Currently, veterans are not routinely and consistently told they are eligible for community. Wait a minute. Currently, veterans are not routinely and consistently told that they are eligible for community care unless they request information or give any referral. Mm. Hmm. There are people that be say, "Hey, what's the problem with that? That should be about the veterans." But again, this is not what the various parts of main media is talking about. Again, most of the stuff I'm just reading right now, especially these last parts, you're not going to hear too much about this. Or depending on when you listen to this, you didn't hear a lot of parts about the VA's recommendations or for next administration to try to basically gear toward more helping out the veterans a lot more. You're not going to hear about that too much. It's about, oh my goodness, oh, if the Trump gets back in office, oh my goodness, he's going to sit there and take away so many people's rights and stuff like that. You see how that goes, right? On that one. Let's see, we're going here. Embrace the expansion of the community. Embrace the expansion of community-based outpatient clinics as an avenue to maintain VA footprint and challenging medical markets without investing further in obsolete and unaffordable VA healthcare campuses. Personnel. For personnel, establish a senior executive, access to daily. Identify a workflow process to bring wait times in compliance with VA Mission Act required time frames wherever possible. Access to daily clinical appointment load for physicians and clinical staff in medical facilities where wait times for care are well outside of the time frames required by the VA Mission Act. Require VHA facilities to increase the number of patients seen each day to equal the number seen by DoD medical facilities, approximately 19 patients per provider per day. Currently, VA facilities may be seen as few as 6 patients per provider per day. What's that? How the man access the medical facility community care readily available. Access to medical facilities where community care is rarely available, but referrals for community care are below the average in other similar markets. Further explore how to leverage telehealth to reduce personal costs across the enterprise and serve veterans. Continue to pursue expansion of broadband service to promote to remote and rural areas. Some people say, what's the problem with that? Veterans Benefits Administration, the most evident concern needed reform. The most evident and ongoing concern is the complexity of benefits, which can lead to confusion for the veteran, if not migrated early in the veteran's interactions. Long-term distrust and animosity toward the VA. Wholesale benefits reform is unnecessary and politically third rail, but effective managerial approaches and technology tools that currently exist in the private sector could be employed to improve existing VA activities. Hire more private companies to perform disability medical examinations. Delays in completing their examinations could be eliminated with all external capacity. Increase automation. Hire additional staff to process claims is costly, is inflexible, and has yielded mixed results. The best way to provide benefits faster and more accurate is by using technology to perform most of the work. Technology currently exists in the private sector, but the VBA lacks the expertise to use it. Reduce improper payment and fraud. About $500 million is improperly paid out each year. Better tools, training, and management can reduce this substantially, but rule change at the department level will be needed. This area to grow number of health conditions. Budget. The VA schedule for rating disability is going to all that. Let me make sure on that. Toxin. Well, it says the next administration should explore how VASRD, which stands for the VA Schedule for Rating Disabilities, could be accelerated with the clearance. I'm going to all that. I'm going to all that. Personnel and capital. Getting closer and closer. So I guess the thing about it, as I'm looking at this, it's just looking at the economy. Okay, look at the economy part. Hold on for a second. The next administration must prioritize the economic prosperity of ordinary citizens. For several decades, the establishment elites have failed the citizenry by refusing to secure the border, outsourcing manufacturing to China elsewhere, spending recklessly regulating constantly and generally controlling the country from top down rather than letting it flourish from the bottom up. I'm just reading, scanning here because I'm getting closer and closer here. Oh, it's it. Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce is charged with promoting economic growth, innovation, and competitiveness while providing the data that American business needs to succeed. Let's see what they're talking about here. Okay, it's not talking about here. No, it's the third administration. I'm going to all that. Okay, almost getting close to finishing this whole, scan the whole document. I'm definitely tired and reading this whole document or scan through this whole document because it definitely took a lot longer than I think this is going to go. Look over some things here. Who's this? Got all that. Going to $1 billion. Going all that. Focus on. Going all that. Streamline on that one. Because again, it'd be very surprising if for some people, I mean, if there's a couple of people that's listed to this whole thing I'm talking about, but I just want to do this regardless. Even for myself, when personnel relating over Project 2025, oh my goodness, it's just this and all that, and then for you hear me what I'm reading, it's like okay, there are some good things within the document per se. At the same time, however, other questionable things that show up, right? Especially they start talking about playing the, oh my goodness, the wokeness and all this other stuff, kind of switchery tactics, right? On that. Now, I think this is the one I want to look at too here. Minority Business Development Agency. The Minority Business Agency, the Minority Business Development Agency. The Minority Business Development Agency is the only federal agency solely dedicated to the growth and competitiveness of minority-owned businesses. The Minority Business Development Act of 2021 was developed into law as part of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. The act authorized the creation of regional offices and rural business centers, increasing the number of scope of existing grant programs supporting MBDA business centers, mandates grants to minority serving institutions to cultivate future generations of minority entrepreneurs, establishes a minority business advisory council to advise the undersecretary on supporting minority-owned businesses. Where did that say anything about American blacks? But again, American blacks are told to pull your own selves up by your bootstraps, right? You see how that go. The disgusting tactic of that. American blacks, even some within American blacks in the modern day that have been fooled, that messed over, and just deviated and multi-means of mentalities within American blackism to not understand that there are other people who are helping, wink, wink, parentheses, minorities, with helping them getting businesses and things like that under the broad minority doctrine, not American black, right? So you got how many people that bypass right past black folks, utilize minority switchery scenarios, right? But have not been in this country longer than American blacks, right? By a majority. You see how that goes, right? Wow. See, this is kind of one of those shh. I'm just looking at some of the things. Sharing. Conservative leadership at MBDA should focus the organization on conducting policy analysis on the benefit of free markets, the evils of socialism and communism, and the destructive effect of taxes and regulation on minority businesses. Here. Establishing MBDA as a data and research clearinghouse for minority business enterprises and policy makers. Wow. Evaluating the harmful effects of unfair trade practice on minority-owned businesses and their employees. That's not talking nothing about American blacks. See, anytime the word minority is used, minority businesses, there are some within American blackers that know how insulting it is. It's not the point about the minority utilizing words by itself, is that how it is diluted on that. What about minorities on one side, but specifically American blacks on the other side? No, people don't want to do that because the system does not want to make sure that the equality and the perpetualness, disfairness that is given to in generalness of saying dilutance of the minority switchery tactics is done. You said it's goes, right? And you got however numbers of minorities, the ones applies to, they're not sitting there trying to think about, oh yeah, well, because of American blacks, we've definitely have gotten the benefit and programs and sympathy and etc. and opportunities. We know that. They ain't gonna sit there and say that to American blacks 9,000% because that takes away from their golden goose, golden eggs that they're getting, right? But unfortunately, within American blackism, haven't got it through quite a number of thick skulls that the word minorityness, right, is not a friend to American blacks on that. Okay, almost finishing up here. What is this here? Department of Treasury. Okay, what's the Department of Treasury? Verse of, hold on. Okay, I'm going all that. I'm going all that here. Treasury Department Organization. I'm going all that. I'm going to do all that here. Okay, let's see what we got here. Almost finishing up on that. And again, I'm just scanning because, again, this is interesting to me. Again, various type of things I don't remember seeing before. And the various times I was scanning over this, I thought I was going on real faster before I decided to do a show on this. But man, just stopping at even more different areas, it's interesting. And again, if nothing else, if one other person listens to this show or 10 people listen to the show in the next 20 years, hey, that's fine too. But what still comes down to it, I still want to do a timepiece purpose because again, from just the one things I was talking about, collectively, many people have not even heard some of the things that I have been relaying over it because again, the system, the people know that they were not the system knows and main medianess overall, and how other personnel who know they did this a little dastardly, half white lie, little disinformation, and a little switchery tactics. They regurgitated what they want to sit there and say, right? Because they know, especially within American blackism, multi-millions were not going to read even half this document, right? So many within American blackism was just many within American blackism. They would just they know that they will listen collectively to what is being regurgitated, right? And they feel that, oh, yeah, American blackism, they're not going to really think. They're just going to listen to what we're talking about, and they're just they'll just regurgitate the, oh my goodness, 2025. Oh my goodness, if Trump gets back in office, oh, Project 2025, if Trump gets back in office, oh my goodness, right? We got to get Kamala needs to be in there, right? Even though, again, this ain't about pick who, whatever it is, because again, when Kamala was talking about what? When Kamala was talking about she's not going to do anything for black folks. Just shame on that. Hold on for a second. What is this? The agenda. Okay, well, I think this might be another one. On the Department of Treasury, the equity. Okay, the equity agenda. Under the Biden administration, the Treasury Department has appointed a counselor for racial equity, established an advisory committee on racial equity, and created an office for diversity. I got to go back and do this again. The equity agenda. Under the Biden administration, the Treasury Department has appointed a counselor for racial equity, established an advisory committee on racial equity, and created an office for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and accessibility. All these should be eliminated. Treasury has created several new offices to promote equity and has made this its first of 5 strategy goals in its fiscal year 2022 to 22-26 strategic plan. Equity, as identified as cross-cutting theme in 15 of the 19 plan objectives. This avowed purpose of these initiatives is to implement policies that deliberately favor some races or ethnicities over others. The casual acceptance and rapid spread of racist policymaking in the federal government must be forcibly opposed and reversed. The next conservative administration should take affirmative steps to expose and eradicate the practice of critical race theory and diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) throughout the Treasury Department. These steps will include identify every Treasury official who participated in DEI initiatives and interview him or her for the purpose of determining the scope and nature of these initiatives and ensure that such initiatives are completely ended. Make public immediately all communications relating to the work of the Treasury's critical race theory and DEI initiatives. Treat the participation in any critical race theory or DEI initiative without objecting or constitutional or moral grounds as per se grounds for termination of employment. Expose and make public all training materials and initiatives designed to single out any race, ethnicity, or sex for special treatment. Oh, let me read that last part. Expose and make public all training materials and initiatives designed to single out any race, ethnicity, or sex for special treatment. This is under the Department of Treasury and their Heritage Foundation recommendations on that. And interesting on that part that the thing with the critical race theory, oh my goodness, you got to get rid of these what does it say here? The casual acceptance and rapid spread of racist policymaking in the federal government must be forcibly opposed and reversed. The next conservative administration should take affirmative steps to expose and eradicate the practice of critical race theory and diversity. These people are out there hot for damn mind. The nerve of these people. You say, who in the hell are these stupid ass idiotic games? Right? Jim Crow damn laws was made by who? Not American blacks. But that was the personnel within Panama's culture who were doing that. Right? Black folks couldn't go to any restaurants. By who? Racism laws that was allowed to do that. Who was doing that? None of the personnel with the Panama-based culture, right? Keeping black folks sitting there acting as if American blacks, that there will never be a day that American blacks will be basically respected or treated as citizens. Who was that done by? personnel within Harvard parts of predominant culture who had the same mentality, right? Redlining done to American blacks, right? Do you see the name? The game of this, just this idiotic ass game. Oh my goodness, racism. Oh, we don't need that situation. We got to expose that. Well, that's not what they're talking about, because racial racism is being shown not through them, but through reality of what's going on. And how many damn racial racism laws have been put in this country and policies over the last several hundred damn years, especially geared toward American blacks? The nerve of some damn people, right? See, this is the kind of stuff under the document under 2020, the Project 2025. See, that's the kind of stuff right here was like, wait a minute now. See, this is the kind of stuff that some people try to focus on that part, on that. But they're completely bypassed within this country of, again, how many racial racism laws and policies were sitting there allowed to happen, right? Nope, it's against the law. You can't intermarry. Nope. Oh, wait a minute now. How's that humanity? Right? How's that humanity? You can't marry, you couldn't marry anybody if you want to go, you want interracially. Who the hell you think it was talking about? What? Native Americans whites couldn't marry Native Americans? They ain't got nothing to do with nothing, right? Well, you think this applied, they was applying to, well, no, Asian people can't get married to whites. That had nothing damn doing thing. What we call Asians, which was a certain section of Asianness, by the way, at that time, right? Demographics wasn't even worth even talking about. So the two main people they was talking about that they didn't want to have any intermarrying was whites and blacks. That ain't changed. That ain't damn changed now in 2024, right? That ain't changed. The nerve of goddamn people, right? When the Dred Scott situation happened, right? Racial racism, policy laws, etc. Dred Scott, right? Reconstruction, right? When you got personnel within the predominant culture that kicked out black folks out of politics for several decades. Those are racism laws and policies. But they don't want people to talk about that, right? The Civil Rights Act of 1964, which was diluted down to include, right, playing little minority switchery tactics when it should have been specific for American blacks. You said that go. You're talking about racial racism laws, right? Policies. World War II still going on, 1941, 1945, right? Racial racism laws and policies, 1941, that was still going on, 1945, right? When World War II was just ending, right? American blacks still were in segregated units. It's 2024. 100 years ago would have been 1924, which means less than 100 damn years ago, still racial racism laws and policies were still on the damn books for segregation. But these people and the draconian, messed up ass mentalities, they don't want to sit there and talk about that. Oh, that really didn't happen, right? War still going in the damn 60s, right? You had the Selma massacre, should we say, the Selma inhumanity treatment, when you had American blacks in the 60s that was going across the Edmund Pettus Bridge that was named after a racial racism person within the Civil War, right? You got American blacks in the 1960s that was going across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, that was just marching to be treated as equals, and you got racial racism terrorists that was bad seeds that was running over with horses and etc., stomping out American blacks, trying to go across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. This is going on in the 1960s, man. Right? You still got in the 50s segregation that was still going on public transportation. Rosa Parks, less than 100 damn years ago. And you got some evil ass, demonic ass people trying to talk about, let's not talk about critical race theory. Boy, the hell down these people. These people are satanic, but brilliant. Because you got people that run across that damn border illegally. People that overstand visas left and right. Don't know a damn thing about true American Black history. You got some black skin, the nerve of some black skin numbers of personnel, the ones who applies to from certain parts of Africa, certain parts of Caribbean, the ones it applies to, and how other places they got some nerve to run. How many are illegal come across those southern borders and have other places, but we don't want to talk about that, right? Because oh my god, especially American blacks are not supposed to be like, wait a minute, that's because skin folks don't mean they kin folks, right? Whole different topic in itself on that. So that's interesting on that one. Woof. Wow. Okay, let's continue. Wow. Okay. All right. I think I'm almost actually finished. Almost. Export import bank. Export import bank. Export import bank. You don't hear a lot about that. The export import bank. Let me repeat that again. The export import bank. The export import bank should be abolished. This is one of the personnel were saying. The export import bank of the United States, EXIM, or the bank, is a federal agency that was established in 1934 to provide export subsidies through taxpayer-backed financing to private exporting corporations, as well as to foreign companies buying U.S. exports, with the ostensible purpose of promoting American exports, creating jobs, supporting small businesses, improving U.S. competitiveness, and protecting U.S. taxpayers. Ain't too many people have heard about that one, have they? Let's see here. Background. Let's see what they say. Say anything about claims of fact, supporters, maintain, no, like that, but the uses. The bank does not promote exports. Okay, more. So the subsidy boosts. Promote. The bank does not promote growth by leveling the playing field. EXIM charter stipulates that one of its missions is to support U.S. exports with the goal of creating jobs and promoting economic growth through the provision of export financing via its loan guarantee insurance programs. As a result, EXIM for years has been focused primarily on what other countries, ECAs, whatever it is, are doing, how much financing they are providing. What they are doing, anything on that part. China down. The bank does not support small businesses, whatever. Now, so I'm trying to challenge on that. Whatever on that part. Not important here. Almost finishing that. Federal Reserve. Money is this Federal Reserve. Money is the essential unit of measure for voluntary exchanges that constitute the market economy. Stable market allows people to work freely, helps businesses grow, facilitates investment, etc. Over time, however, Congress has delegated the responsibility first to the Department of the Treasury and now the quasi-public reserve system. The Federal Reserve was created by Congress in 1913 when most Americans lived in rural areas and the largest industry was agriculture. The impetus was a series of financial crises caused by irresponsible banks and other financial institutions that overextended credit and by poor regulations. Been down over time. In the decades since the Federal Reserve was created, there has been a downturn roughly every 5 years. The monetary dysfunction is related in part to the impossibility of fine tuning the money supply in real time. Mm. Wow. And then support limits. Just sitting there reading here, as you see on the screen as well. Just this scanning through here. Again, many of these type of things were not talked about on various parts of main media unless it's about emotionary responses, regurgitation, infactualization, right? And things to that effect to get people all emotionary and non-constructive thinking and things like that to get people to regurgitate within what various parts of main media and other different places now that were trying to do has been trying to do some disinformation on that situation, right? Tell a little half a white little lies on that one. Let's see what we got here. Definitely almost finishing up. Small Business Administration. The Small Business Administration. The U.S. Small Business Administration supports. Oh, you know what? Let me read this again. Small Business Administration mission statement. The U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, supports U.S. entrepreneurship and small business growth by strengthening free enterprise through policy advocacy and facilitating programs that help entrepreneurs to launch and grow their business and compete effectively in the global marketplace. Created almost 70 years ago, the SBA was launched under the Small Business Act with a mission to aid, counsel, and assist and protect insofar as is possible the interests of small business concerns. It's reading here. In fact, some SBA programs are effective, others are not. The largest program in SBA's history, the Paycheck Protection Program, has been credited with saving millions of jobs during the when C-19 pandemic. A conservative administration would rightly focus on saving small businesses during such crisis. At the same time, however, various SBA programs have generated waste, fraud, and mismanagement of taxpayer dollars. For example, and more recently, more than $1 trillion in C-19 relief was distributed through the SBA. Wow. Origin, history, and the core function. In 1954, the agency began to execute such core functions as making and guaranteed loans for small businesses, ensuring that small businesses earn a fair proportion of government contracts and sales of surplus property, and providing business owners with management and business training. Who you think they was talking American blacks? What was going on in 1954? American blacks were still in formal segregation. And it is definitely mind-blowingness to think in 1954, when the agency began to execute such functions as making and guaranteed loans for small businesses. This was nothing in dealing with 9,000% American blacks. Right? If the system now doesn't want to sit there and make sure not to help American blacks and no equalness to wink wink minorities of others, right? Because others are used as a buffering zonist to sit there and placate, oh, well, there are still minorities, right? And associate minorities with black. You see the game with that part? History of mismanagement. Throughout its history, various SBA programs and practices have generated negative news headlines and scathing government accountability office and inspector general reports that have centered on mismanagement, lack of competent personnel, and our systems in waste, fraud, and abuse. From the 8A program to Hurricane Katrina to the more current C-19 EIDL program and PPP lending programs. The SBA has managed to maintain its lending role even when repeated system failures have affected its distribution of funds. No limit to several other programs. SBA is conservative. Let's see what they got here. Under successful yield. Under a conservative administration, success would yield a highly qualified SBA administrator and leadership team that can competently run the agency and enthusiastically advocate for the policy issue needs of small business entrepreneurs. A tighter, more focused SBA that concentrates on congressionally authorized programs. A full accounting of and an end to waste, fraud, and abuse in all C-19 relief programs, PPL, and EIDL programs. An end to SBA direct lending. Modern revamp Office of Advocacy, accountability, and all that. Strengthen the Office of Advocacy, amen. Okay, C-19 on that. All right, I think I'm almost about finished on this long scenario of going over the entire Project 2025 document on this. Almost getting finished, truly getting finished almost on this. Trade. All that. No, I'm not gonna read all. I'm definitely gonna read on a lot of that. America's trade deficit in goods and services, trading partners. Deficit. Wait a minute. America's trade deficit in goods and services with major trading partners. Wow, Communist China, way up there, isn't it? Way up there. Let's see here. Trump, 68, not reciprocal nations. Not reading all that. Okay, what's this? No, we're going all that. What's this? Mapping bilateral trade deficits against tariff differentials. Going all that. To the countries, no, we're all that. Mandate, no. They're definitely getting close and close and close and closer, definitely. On that. Yeah, because I definitely was skipped around a lot more in the last several times I was scanning this. Before I wanted to do a show on this, I would definitely scan around a lot quicker. This time when I was doing this live, it was just so many different areas that was interesting because the regurgitation effect relating to however main meatiness that was wanted to, or that were and still, well, today is, well, now it's going into August 16, 2024. And up until, so today, up until still November, on that day of election in November, and how many people are still going to talk about the Project 2025 agenda and stuff like that. Like, oh my goodness. So if Trump gets in office, oh my goodness, Project 2025 is not, it's gonna just mess up this, going to mess up the US. You see how that goes, right? Oh well, if they're for Trump, and that means they're against Kamala. If they're against Kamala, I mean, if they're for Kamala, if they're for Trump, that means they are against Kamala. and that means that they're anti-black, even though when Kamala has said she's not going to do anything for black folks. And you start looking at how record-breaking, border-breaking, illegal immigrant personnel has been going on, right? And somebody said, well, look at Trump. Well, he's now a convicted felon. Well, he's done some doing that. See, again, playing tick for tack. See the game, because the whole point is also is that, oh my goodness, Project 2025 is going to do all this devastation to black folks. And then some other people will slide in and say, hey, but, hey, it's going to do this to this section of personnel, this group, whatever it is. But that part is very much not talked about, but a very small part. The regurgitation is, hey, we're going to sit there and say what we want to talk about Project 2025, right? To sit there and scare American blacks to make sure, or to try to get many of them to not vote for Trump in presidential election, even though it's like the foolishness of this one-side scenario when you still have a gigantic amount of other elections or other personnel to be voted upon in the elections in November 2024. You got all these other different personnel that are also running for office, right, in Congress, etc., to be voted upon. But you got personnel that's still arguing about personnel that was arguing about, depending on when this is listened to, or was arguing about presidential election first. Boy. Wow, this is almost done. This is definitely one of the longest podcasts I think I've done. And I know a lot of times a lot of stuff was boring and stuff like that. I got it. Something to sleep on. But I want to do this as a timepiece purpose. So again, if Trump, let me just finish up what I was saying and in the closing comments. Yep, I think this is it. Section 5, independent regulatory agencies. I'm going all that. You hear too many people talking about independent agencies in that kind of way. Financial regulatory agencies, you don't hear a lot of times about that. You don't hear a lot of things about that one. Okay. What's it? No. Let's see. You got here. Now, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was authorized in 2010 by the Dodd-Frank Act. Since the Bureau's inception, its status as an independent agency with no congressional oversight has been questioned in multiple court cases, and the agency has been assailed by critics as a shakedown mechanism to provide unaccountable funding to leftist nonprofits politically aligned with those who spearhead its creation. Wow. Okay, the CFPB has fiscal year 2020 budget of $653.2 million and 1,635 full-time equivalent FTE employees. In fiscal year 2012 through 2020, it imposed approximately $1.25 billion in civil money penalties. Woof, on that one. Touches in place. Man, what's this? Passive. Okay. Let's see. Oh, no, I'm going all that. All right. Anything next here? Federal Communications Commission. The FCC should promote freedom of speech, unleash economic opportunities, ensure that every American has a fair shot at next generation connectivity, enable the private sector to create good paying jobs through pro-growth reforms that support a diversity of viewpoints, ensure a secure and competitive communication network, and modernize outdated infrastructure rules, and represent good steward of taxpayer dollars. It's funny when they talk about that support a diversity of viewpoints, but when you start talking about diversity in businesses, diversity in education, diversity programs to try to correct certain parts of what continues to be a racial or anti-black racial racism, anti-blackness, then it's like, oh my goodness, that's DEI stuff, right? You see how that goes, right? Affirmative action, you see those kind of gains when those things that had nothing to do with American blacks. Since affirmative action was started for personnel for the predominant culture, by number the personnel within predominant culture. It's interesting you're talking about DEI stuff because it's like, oh, so when you hear people within certain part of predominant culture, when numbers of women within various part of predominant culture that are being hired, the ones that are for still DEI, right? It's not much of a problem on that, right? But for the American black personnel in general, depending on what position, then it's, oh my goodness, we need to get rid of DEI. See that game go on that? You know, this all types of brilliant mental manipulation tactics that continue to keep succeeding upon means with an American blackism mindset, with very few exceptions. Wow, this document. Federal Election Commission. Oh, wow. A lot of people ain't never heard about that one either. Wait till First Amendment. Wow, look at all that. Okay, conclusion on that one. We're about that one. Federal Trade Commission. All that one here. Needed reform. All that. All right. Okay, I see here. Conclusion on that one. All right, then onward. Okay, I think that's it. I'm going the same one again, same thing, some of the stuff that's way at the beginning of the early conversation. They talk about onward. Today, President Joe Biden has brought us back to the days of Jimmy Carter. Actually, even worse, with full-bore economic, military, culture, and foreign policy turmoil. The advice that I wrote more than 4 decades ago just as easily could have been written today. A conservative administration coming on board 2025 will need to hit the ground running just to undo the significant damage that still has been done during the Biden years. Wow. This person is a solution. Then I've been with the wrong word. This have been a charge of the. All right. Okay. Yep. So I'm done. So that was the whole book you see already. From the first page to the last page, over 900 some pages. Project 2025 Presidential Transitional Print. Project 2025 Presidential Transition Project. And as I related in the first 15, 20 minutes of this show, that the Project 2025 is of the current administration, or for the current mandate for the leadership on that, right? 25 for the current leadership, in hopes to get Harvard conservatism personnel to the White House in elections on November 2024 on that. Or should I say, to be elected in 2024 November and to be placed in January of 2025 and stuff like that. So it was definitely for me an interesting read on this, because I definitely, would have went a lot faster, or should have went a lot more faster. It just got so interesting on the many parts I did not see or look at before, because what it boils down to it again is when you have personnel that want to act like that Project 2025 was all about getting Trump into office, and Trump gets into office, that's going to be the tumultuous ending of quite a number of Americanism in situations like that. And what is going to save the nation is to elect a person that has of Indian motherness and a Jamaican fatherness, and to try to equate that as meaning black, and that American blacks by the millions, if they don't vote for Kamala, then I mean that they're against black women, even though again, Kamala within the mother relayed over that they were Caucasian in the birth certificate, and the father was Jamaican. So it's like whatever on that, right? And when Kamala says that, or said that she's not going to do anything for black, even though how much resources have been given to border breaking illegal immigrant personnel, however, wink, wink, migrants, however, numbers of Asians, a gigantic amount of resources for businesses and etc. have been given to what we call Asians or a sectionality of Asians, etc., open door policies, etc. And the thing about it is, you got people that want to regurgitate and just devastate, try to devastate millions of American blacks' mentality, and thinking that if Kamala's not voted into office, then that, and Trump has gotten to get into office, that's going to put American blacks back into bondage. You see how that goes. And it's like the person can vote for who they want to vote for, but the silliness of they have got millions within American blackism to forget, or seem to forget, that there is other very important, tremendously other congressional personnel running for in elections in November 2024. And that is some of the most importantest, because that is personnel relating to legislating of laws. But at the same darn time, they trying to get millions of American blacks to focus on a non-popular vote presidential election that people seem to forget. You only get elected to the current modern day presidential election. Well, supposed to be electoral votes, not popular votes. And again, I wanted to say this. Regardless, or relay this regardless. There's nothing of a guarantee in this. At the same time, I wanted to relay this, is that unless some things change, it would not be a surpriseness of at least 90 to 95% on the time of November elections that Trump will most likely get elected, unless something changes where supremacists like, no, we want Kamala in office. Then it's going to happen. But that will probably be less than about 5% on that. And either way, American blacks are still not going to get tangible restitution, as numbers what we call American natives get, gigantic amount of reparations. American blacks are not going to get any still continuously equality of citizenship collectively. There still will not be reparations of free education, free health care, Pacific American, American Black business grants and businesses, and etc. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's not just a cutting a check, right? Even though you got other people getting checks cut to them left and right, within American Black nativism. You got border breaking legal immigrant personnel. How many of them getting those checks and different things? How much money is going toward aid and helping other people out first? But at the same time, the voting, be it Kamala or be it Trump, of however it goes. I thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show.